All right, here we go. We have Toronto-based, Florida-based artist and rapper in the building today, Mobi Mawla. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
Doing all right, man. You have a great story, by the way, too. And we were just conversating earlier on today before the setup, before the interview. More so with you being affiliated with Unity Charity and all that, and being performing at a lot of events like a Unity Fest, opening up for the likes of Main Source and Toby and everyone else too, and then just kind of had to take a dive in within your music too and all that, and you had your EP Freedom as well as your other singles like Southwest, and also with myself too, all released within 2020 and all that, and then I was checking out all your other stuff too, just later on today with your Much Music battle with Idos, and then also with the interview with jamming with Jay and all that, which is pretty interesting for a bit too to see and all that. And I don't know if this is kind of your first actual story based interview in that sense too. Just speaking on your story and everything like that, or if it's sort of different for you, or if you've done this many times.
No, I think this is probably one of the few times, if not the only. But yeah, I appreciate it, bro. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, most definitely, man. And great catalog by the way too. No handouts on Freedom. It was amazing to hear. Land of the Free. Back again. I think one of the hottest songs that I actually first heard you since was Southwest, and I like the energy and style of that, and when I was seeing your freestyle on Jammin' with Jay and all that, you kind of had more of a down south type freestyle in that sense too, with the rapping scheme and everything like that, kind of more GID Outcast type stuff too, and I kind of noticed that from the southern roots and all that, so is interesting to see too in that sense, and it's just because you've had an interesting career, because you started out since a teenager, and then now you're in your mid late 20s, which is very interesting to see for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a really cool thing to see the growth, and I fell in love with this music really young. And since then, I've just been growing. As I grow as a person, I grow with the music. So it's been really cool to see uh, my life grow. But it's always been with the music, and it's been exciting to develop and get better, and be able to make and create these songs as I do so.
Nah, most definitely, man. So I want to get it started right here. So, you were born in Toronto? That's correct, or?
No, I was actually born overseas. I was born in Saudi Arabia, and then I came to Canada when I was 5 years old.
True. So what was being born in Saudi Arabia, in that area with Jeddah, Riyadh, all those other parts too? Were you born in the main capital of Saudi Arabia, or at a different end?
So I was born in Khobar, and then my family, my dad had a job in Riyadh. So I would see this country and things like that, but I was real young at the time. I had very faint memories of it, but it was interesting, man. It was a very different culture over there, different dynamic, and seeing that change when I was so young was really interesting, because you only have certain memories of it, and then when you come over here, now you're this is where you're growing up, right? This is where you're kind of developing as a person.
Oh, most definitely, man. And when you moved to Toronto in that sense too, which ends did you did you kind of live in at that time, and even in Florida as well, and what was it growing up within that environment, and and what was the environment for you growing up? Would you say it was a very great childhood growing up, or would it be different?
So when I came to Canada, I was living in Scarborough, and pretty much lived in Scarborough the whole time I lived in Canada. But growing up as a child, as an immigrant, you really don't understand a lot of things of oh, what it's supposed to be here. You just kind of going with the waves, right? As things go, you kind of follow along with it. My parents were in my life and just doing the most they can to provide for me and whatnot, and provided all the great things that we had. You didn't know what you had or how little you had as a child, but it was more than enough as a kid growing up, and I felt that I had a great childhood in that sense, where we made do with what we had, and had a great time doing it. And then when I lived in Florida, it was also that same nature as well, where when I'm over there, I find that it's a very different dynamic over there, but it was very inspirational. I was there in Bradenton. It's a suburb of Tampa, and in Bradenton, it was a lot less opportunity, but a lot of different people, and I got to really expand my worldview of like what people are, not just in Scarborough, not just in Saudi Arabia. It's just got to expand a lot.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And you were born like I don't know like if I want to like estimate your age, but you were born in '96 or '97.
Yeah, in '96. Yeah.
96, true, true. Yeah, same age as well to like October 10th, 1996 and all
Yeah.
that. Like kind of more so like in the spring or more in the fall. Or,
Yeah, I was May, so I was born May 5th, '96.
true. And like even like at that time too, like moving to Toronto, like this is like kind of like at the time like where like 9/11 like sort of happened, and like you're like fully like Saudi, right, and all that.
So my family's Bengali, so from Bangladesh. So we were living in Saudi Arabia for employment and things like that. But that's a good point when you bring it up because I came to Canada in 2001 in November. So it was like very shortly after the like things that happened in 9/11. But when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, hey, this is your chance. You gotta take it. We were in the immigration process long before 9/11 happened, and when we came over here, again, I was very young at the time. I was kind of absent-minded to these things of what was happening in the world around us. But to understand the move and the risk that your parents are taking and your family's taking to kind of make this happen at this time, with everything that's going on in the world, kind of puts things in perspective of all the risk and all the things that they're doing.
Yeah, no, most definitely, man. And like I guess like the transition to like getting into like Western culture was like pretty easy for you at that time, like when you moved to Toronto, or would it be like kind of like different?
I would say that when I was kind of living in Scarborough, uh, I was lucky enough that where I lived in Scarborough and just in Scarborough in general, it's a very multicultural place. So I wasn't the only one that was an immigrant, and every year there'd be more and more people that would be coming that looked like me that I could relate to, and not just from like South Asia, but like from the West Indies, from the Caribbean, from Eastern Asia, like China. So we were all kind of experiencing the same things at the same time from different places, which was cool because it was like a melting pot. And everybody says Toronto's a melting pot, but if you really look at it, Scarborough's a very high melting pot of different cultures, different ethnicities, different backgrounds. So it was really great to see that. And I always grew up comfortable. I always felt like Scarborough was home.
True, true. Nah, most definitely, man. Just getting more so into the music part too. So like I know Scarborough, it is like very big with music. With like Pram, with Cardinal Official, with like everyone else like in that scene too, from like North Scarborough to like South Scarborough and all that to like Malvern to everywhere else too. And I mean Bradenton, Florida, like which is like by Tampa. Like I know like with Tampa, Fort Myers, they do kind of have like a unique scene from there. I mean Plies, I think was like maybe like the first rapper that kind of blew up like around that Tampa region, and then it led to other people like kind of coming up, with like Rod Wave and like also I think this other rapper named I think Glock Knight or something like that. I think he's from Tampa, but
Yeah.
but like how were they like at that time too? Like were they like big in music in terms of being like an industry end, or would you say it was just more so a community at the time?
So in Scarborough specifically, like I felt wherever I lived at, there was like neighborhood stars, like people that were like rapping and doing their thing in your neighborhood. When I lived in Malvern, especially, where it's like, bro, you'd see them and it's like, that's them, bro. That's exciting to see them, and it was cool because you understand that uh, nowadays you understand it was a very small scale of doing things, but back then as a kid, you see these guys and they look like just like any other celebrity in the world, right? And when I was living in Florida, it was more or less the same thing. But when we were living in Florida, we kind of understood that we were in such a small town. Like we had one mall in our town and things like that. So it was a very small community. So anybody that was doing something from there, everybody was excited for them. Everybody was excited to see them succeed and push them in that sense where they would believe in your dreams just like you believe in your dreams.
No, most definitely, man. And like even like with growing up too, like what were you like from birth until like the start of like adulthood in that sense?
When I was growing up, I was always talkative, eager to be in front of people. and I just wanted to always present myself, right? I would always have fun doing it as well. So it kind of transitioned very smoothly into like, oh, being on stages and being in front of the camera and being on in front of the mic. So I really found that exciting because there's always stuff that I wanted to do and show people and get better at things and then show them like how much I got better at it. So that kind of transitioned really smoothly into that. I was always excited to be in front of people.
Most definitely, man. And just like speaking more so on your music too, like what was like your musical background and history like, and what inspired you to become like a rapper and artist and like take it seriously in that sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So it first came into like falling in love with hip hop as the genre, just as a listener. So I heard like a song by Kanye West, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like this was incredible, and I was like, yo, I got to figure this out. So I went on the internet and I searched up like, oh, best rappers of all time, because I'm like, this is what I want to know. So I'm here. I saw like Tupac, Biggie, and Nas, and I'm like, oh, these are great artists. They got to be great. So I went on LimeWire at the time, if y'all know it, and I downloaded their discographies, which is like every single song they've ever released through their labels. So I'd have like maybe like 90 hours of Tupac, like 8 albums of like Biggie, like 4 or 5 albums of Nas, and like I listened to every single song, and I'm like, yo, I just dove into it deep, right? And since then, it's always been that. Like I loved hip hop as a whole, and I always love what's popping in terms of like the mainstream, underground, local, around the world. I'm just a big fan of the culture as hip hop, and that's all I really got into listening growing up.
Most definitely, man. And would you say that like with Tupac and Biggie and like Nas and Jay-Z, would you consider them like artists that you were like mainly influenced by, and like just like hip hop and rap being like as a whole like the genre like that you were like influenced by, or were there like other like influences in that sense too?
I would say it kind of goes into a blend of both because I respect the culture and the art of hip hop so much and like rapping so much that I can absolutely say like I drew a lot of inspiration from the older generations, and then of course like who's popping nowadays, right? Like I can't deny the fact that artists like J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Drake, Kanye, of course, like I mentioned earlier, like these guys are big inspirations into what I do as a musician to this day, as well as the people from the past as well.
And who would you like to like work with someday that you've either not that you've either worked with, but like like that dream like collab like in that sense too. Like, do you have like any artists in mind that you would like to like work with like in the living?
Like a song with Jay-Z would just blow my mind. Like I'd be like, that would be one of those moments that's like, you can't tell me nothing, but something like that would be crazy. I can't lie.
Before we get into like anything else too, like I actually want to hear like this line for a bit. So I was watching the Jammin' with Jay like interview just like earlier on today, and then you were doing like a poetry like freestyle, and then it said something like you had seen a man die to remind yourself to live. I don't know if you kind of like have like that memory in that context too. So I don't know if you want to like explain more about that and the context of that line, like in that case.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was, I believe, in the 11th grade. I was getting to a rehearsal for a performance I had coming up, and I had witnessed a guy that was hanging off a balcony on the 15th floor, and he ended up falling to his death. And that not only like put a lot into my mind, but also kind of helped me understand how fragile life was, right? I was 15 at the time, understanding that, hey, life doesn't go on forever, and it really reminded me to take every day for what it is and understand that it could end any day. Nothing tomorrow isn't promised. Next week, next year, next month, whatever it might be, isn't ever promised to you. So I felt like it always reminded me that I had to really go and get it, and there's no better time than the present.
No, for sure, no, most definitely, because I feel like even with music too, like it has like saved like many lives in that sense too, and I kind of like get that perspective too, because like music is like kind of like a way of like living and all that. Like it kind of gives like people purpose on like what they have to do, what they need to kind of keep going to survive, to make sure that life can be short, but you can make the best out of life in that sense too. So like this is just kind of like an extra question, but do you feel like music has like saved you from like any instances that you could go like in a wrong direction, like in that sense too? In that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I could name like number of different instances, but as a whole, like I could see where a lot of my friends and people I considered brothers have went in their lives, whether it's the wrong path or whether their life is not, they're not here with us anymore. And I could be very thankful that music has always given me a very clear sense of direction of what I want to do and who I want to be in life, and the path I need to do to get there. And that's just all became eventful and became a reality because of the music I create on a day-to-day basis.
Most definitely. And just getting back into the whole like programming right now, Unity Charity. So like I heard of Unity Charity after the whole like main source performing there like back in 2017. So that was actually like one of the first festivals that I actually went to, like more so community wise, to actually check out some dope talent. Like I saw like I think the sorority, and like also with Toby and main source and everyone else too. But I think you were like performing earlier too. But getting onto this, like how did the affiliation come about, and what was it like being in their programs, performing at like many events, and like even like performing at like Unity Fest too, and the role that played a part in your musical journey and process, and like even like what the relationship was like in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a kid, I was always enamored by the bright lights and the downtown ambiance. Like growing up in Scarborough, it's not like you go downtown every day. And I always had a dream of performing at Yonge and Dundas Square and seeing that big crowd over there in the heart of the city. So to make that dream a reality, I tried to find out who would hold shows there, and I understood that Unity would create and curate shows that would be the end of their Unity Festival once a year. So I had to figure out a way to get on that stage. So that was my real platform, and I started working with them through their programming and auditioning for their programs and trying to integrate myself into their ecosystem. And I found myself getting these opportunities because of them, and I was very grateful. To this day, I am grateful and appreciate them giving me the opportunity to not only grow as an artist, but really put my music on a platform on those levels.
True, most definitely. And you only just opened up for main source, or were there like other artists that you've actually like opened up for like that like charity, like as well as like with the other festivals too?
Yeah, there's been another number of other times. So it was Cardinal Fischel was one of the large ones that we had. It's off the top of my head, it's going pretty while back, but I performed for them a number of years. I think the first year was 2013. 14, 15. I performed on the festival a number of years, and also at other venues for them, because as as a relationship and working relationship grew, I feel like they also appreciated uh, the effort and work I put into getting these opportunities, and also the work I put in on the stage, right? Like I felt like I'd always do a good job on stage to make sure that I'd represent them well, represent myself to that same manner.
Most definitely, man. And like, what were like some things that you learned from them that you used to like incorporate like within like your musical and business like aspect in your journey like as like an artist in that sense?
Yeah, I think the big thing was there was a lot of like-minded individuals in the same rooms that created a breeding ground of hunger and motivation. The main things that I really learned for them were to really invest and believe in myself and put in the work in terms of creating the best music I can create, working and developing on my craft as an MC, as a rapper, as a writer, as a musician, as a whole. Like I felt like that's what it was in those programs where, hey, I can dive deeper into my bag in terms of being the best artist I can be.
Most definitely, man. And we're gonna take this back to 2013 when like Much Music was still like having like live shows, like live televised audiences and all that. So I think you'll get this one too in that sense. So the NML rap battle, I think you and Idols were representing like Unity at that time too. Had like the black shirts. I was like watching the freestyle today too, and I want to find out like how that came about and how was it like battling Idols in front of like a live televised audience and doing like the battle like on live television and actually like winning that battle as well too.
Yeah, it was a really great time. I got contacted like maybe like a day or two in advance via text message, just because, like I was mentioning earlier, like any opportunity given to me, I was ready to go for it. I was always excited. I was always down for it. So when I got the message, you already knew the answer, but I was excited to get on there. When I got on the stage, it was accumulation of like, oh, everything that's happening. Like I know that I'm on live television across the country, and I have friends and family watching and things like that. And I felt like I rose to the moment and was able to perform the best of my ability. And thankfully, the crowd believed it as well. And I was got the pleasure to like win and advance, and it was a fun time in general.
Definitely, man. And you were also battling another person like on the next round, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was like also capture two. I don't know if you want to give like a little backstory on who might have won that battle, since I don't think they have like the clips anymore and all that.
Yeah, it was another musician that from Unity Charity, and I felt like the whole point of it all was just to kind of promote the brand because we were coming up to the festival that same like weekend or week or something like that. So we were just on TV trying to do as many promotional pushes as we can. So it was another representative from Unity Charity, and I ended up not winning that battle, but it was more so just to kind of push it. Even with Ados as well, like we were both on the same page because we're coming from the same perspective. Like we're here to promote the company, we're here to present well. So we're not even going at each other, right? We're just trying to present our music in the best of our abilities. And it was a really fun time in that sense. And the crowd was there to enjoy it.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. Because even being seen like on TV, like all over Canada, and just like even like having this performance, like this is like also like on the same day that I think they previewed "Belong to the World" by the Weekend and all that. So it was like very like interesting to like see as well too, like on how you're shown on like a nationwide like level in that sense too, like. And even like when you would like walk down the street, like maybe in the next couple of days, people would like recognize you like in that
Yeah.
sense too. So
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Even to this day, I'll still see a person here and there. They'll still recognize me from that performance, and that was like 10 years ago. And back then, especially, it was more frequent, and it's cool because it's like to see the growth and whatnot.
most definitely, man. Before we get into this next question too, like I know I interviewed like another person from Unity Charity like a long time ago, but it was kind of like an old interview. I don't know if you know Quincy Morales or Michael Morales and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting to see like how the connection is like with people like being in these like programs too, with Unity, with also with Rise and like everything else too. So it's interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man. So speaking more on your 2020 debut project, Freedom, like with No Handouts, with like Land of the Free, with Dream On, with all these other songs too. What was like the creative process and inspiration for that project?
No, absolutely. Well, the main thing was like before that project, there's been a few other projects as well that I've worked on. Actually, like, but the platforms were so different at the time. So when I first started rapping, it was YouTube and on the internet, and then that was back when I was living in America. I was really excited to just kind of put things together, and I had a vision and a dream in mind, and I was just trying to get it over there. And then when I came back to Toronto, it was, hey, let's get these mixtapes on CDs and let's go on DatPiff if you guys are familiar with that platform, and just kind of putting my music on these platforms and uh, in whatever way I could, right? Finding some beats on YouTube to rap on and finding places here and there to have studio time. But as that kind of grew and as that kind of developed, the world and music scene changed where we're able to kind of put our music on more professional platforms and get the ability to kind of reach listeners all around the world and the standard that people are used to listening to music on. So I found that Freedom was that first real project that I was able to start from beginning to end, where we're working on this project together, right? I'm working with producers, creatives, management for them to focus in on this project being the best it can be while I can do what I do well and create that from start to finish, where every beat was with the intention of, hey, like, let's create this beat or let's find this beat that matches what we're trying to say with this song. And same thing, the song matches with what we're trying to get across with this beat. And the whole thing created a vision and a message for the whole project as a whole.
No, most definitely. Because I feel like even within that concept too, it is like very interesting to kind of show more so of like your American roots
Hmm.
with the whole like Toronto style too, and you don't really see that with like a lot of other artists too. So it's kind of interesting to see that you're like one of the main originators like within that style too, and I think it's also important too because like it was also like played on like Ebro Darden's like Beats One program and being playlisted on Northern bars, and even like being played on like Flow 93.5, and like even within that sense too, like especially within that time period where people couldn't really perform shows like at that time due to the pandemic. Did it like change for you like in that sense too?
Yeah, I always felt real surreal about it, where it was a great thing to see someone like Ebro Darden listening to my music and knowing who I am, and having my music played on a radio station I would listen to as a kid, and things like that were really exciting for me. And I felt that it just gave me that extra fire, put more gasoline in the fire, the extra motivation to really make better music, push harder, and go further with it. Because this is just the tip of the iceberg.
No, most definitely, man. And I want to like speak more on the singles right there. Like Southwest, like the first song that I actually heard from you, which is actually like very dope by the way too. And then myself, also like another dope song too. Like what was like the inspirations and creative process for those songs?
So with Southwest, it was really based on a kid that loved and dreamed about Los Angeles. Like as a kid growing up, Los Angeles seemed like a different planet to me because it's so far away. I could never imagine myself even being there and seeing Staples Center and seeing all the things that I had like seen on the internet, on TV, and things like that. Seeing Hollywood Hills. So when the time came around when it was like me and a couple other guys from Toronto, and like it was a bunch of friends just going over to Los Angeles on a trip to actually see and what we could do over there. It was really exciting to make that happen. We were over there and just a bunch of guys and with some dreams, and we went over there and saw all the opportunity that Los Angeles had to offer. Like it was really cool to see that, and really, really inspirational. Really put things in perspective because there's all these music dreams I have of being on world tours, just like how I had that dream of being in Los Angeles. So as a kid, that felt unreal to me, and we made it a reality when a bunch of us went from Toronto, went as dreamers into Los Angeles, and knowing that now these dreams can also become realities. So that song was really based on that, and capturing that moment and capturing the beauty and the essence and the excitement of being there for the first time. And then myself was really a time where I was in Tampa at the time. We recorded the demo for that there, and I was on a bus ride into Tampa, and my whole thing was I got to put myself on. Like I got to do this. I knew what I had to do, how I had to do it, and it was just about doing it. So on the way to Tampa, I was here writing it on this long bus ride, and I'm figuring out like, oh, what I want to say, how I want to get it across, and I was excited. And when I got to Tampa, the first thing is like I had to book down a studio session, record that down with my people over there, and kind of get that base laid down of, hey, this is what I want to get across. It's me putting myself on in that sense.
So there's this other question that I had for a bit too. So from rapping for the very first time until now, did you feel like you've grown as an artist and that you came a long way, like in that sense too?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big believer in the skill of rapping and the art of rapping, and I felt that from when I first started to where I'm at now, the is night and day difference. But not only that, I feel like the whole time I've always stayed or done my best to stay who I am while rapping and growing as a musician. So I felt like I definitely have grown a lot as a musician, and I'm able to really tell my stories and uh, get my points across really well now through music.
Most definitely, man. And since that project, Freedom, you took kind of like a break right now within music, which it's kind of like a 3-year break, like since then. So, you know, just like even like with performing, like in general, also too, and like like social media. Like I think you've posted for a bit, but maybe it was like maybe like a year or two ago. But tell me more about that, and what were like some factors that played within your hiatus in being in the limelight, and even in music in general.
Yeah, I would say the main thing is the hiatus is mainly from the public. Um, Behind the scenes and off of social media, I've been really active in terms of making new music and creating and developing my sound better. So, which I'm really excited to share with the world. But during this time, there was a lot going on in the world, and I felt like uh, my efforts would be better suited trying to capture that and understand how I can make music to provide a dialogue and provide an insight and into what's going on. And I feel like my music right now that I have is a great representation of where I've been at during this time.
No, and I want to like kind of get more into the aspect of like that whole like free time and all that. So what were you like during? What were you doing during like that time too? Like within that 3 year period, just stepping off like social media. I know that you've been recording on music, but did you try like other ventures like in that sense too? Like, explore like life a little bit more differently. Try to do like more like self help like in that sense too, or
Yeah, I think the main thing was kind of understanding what's going on in the world. When COVID hit, I didn't really understand like the extent of what it was going to be, but it really helped me kind of understand like, hey, like I mentioned before, like tomorrow's not promised. Life can change in a blink of an eye. So when I was looking at that, it helped me take a step back and understand what I really want to do with this music, what I really want to get across with the songs I create, what I really want to have the listener understand and feel as they hear my music. So it helped me really dive deeper into my bag of skill and music and get better and develop, dig a little deeper into the words that I'm saying on the mic.
most definitely, man. And we just have like some of these other questions right here, but what's your creative process like when making music, and what would a day in like recording, making, or like making music be like for you in that sense?
It's really different, man. It's I would find that some songs it can be one studio session in and out. We have a song from start to finish, and we're good and we're fine with it, and that's what we're gonna get mixed and mastered. And then other times it might be that hey, we have a studio session where we make the beat, and then another studio session where I'm writing and going back and forth, and it might take like 3-4 months for us to have the final product that we're 100% happy with, because there's so many times where you don't know what the last tweak that you want to do is, but you know it's not perfect, and it's not exactly what you want it to be. So I feel like a lot of times it can be a wide range of that process.
I definitely know what you mean, man. And like even with the Toronto like GTA music scene right now, it's very like interesting to see on like the amount of artists that are like coming up right now, especially like ones like within your caliber, within like your caliber and like your skill set right now. But how do you feel about like the current like Toronto GTA music scene right now? Do you feel that there should be some changes on how the scene should go to, or do you feel like it's fine the way it is?
I really think that just like in anything in life, like change is imminent. Like you can't avoid change, and you got to learn to change with it, or you get left behind. And I find that right now in 2023, uh, Toronto as a city, we as artists also need to understand that it's more accessible to get fans all around the world than ever before, right? With the power of social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, like all these platforms are there for you to really be able to show yourself to the entire world. So I find that that's the change that we should be looking at in terms of thinking bigger, uh, aiming higher. There's no point of trying to be the man in Toronto, which is a huge city, but I think it's we can all be stars in the whole world, right? We can be the next big universal star rather than just a star in here.
Most definitely, man. And I want to find out more about your stage name. Mobi Mawla and all that. Like, I don't know if that's like like an actual like real name that you use, like like a real name, like in that sense too, or like how did you like actually like come up with that stage name?
Well, Moby's someone that people have been calling me since I was like a child, like way before music. That was just a short form of my name, a nickname that I've had since like second grade or first grade when I came to Scarborough. Some people would have tough time like kind of getting to know my name, and I said Mobi was just a thing that people would call me. So it was real natural for me to just go with that as my name, and then I would add my last name to it to just kind of make it complete. As again, my music is 100% authentically me, so I would want people to understand that what you're getting through my music is who you know me as a person. It's not like a character or someone different that you wouldn't already know if you know who I am.
No, most definitely, man. And I usually say this for every other person for this year, that I'm trying to incorporate. But name like 3 songs like on your catalog that you have like released right now that you would recommend to listeners or fans that want to get to know you more, but like for the first time and all that, or to get more in tune with you, like in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Dream On is a really great song that I would love for people to listen to. Southwest, like you mentioned before, again, one of my favorite songs. And last but not least, I'd say No Handouts is a great banger that hits hard. And I love how I rap on that, bro. I got some bars for sure.
No, for sure, man. No, most definitely. And what are your plans for this year? Like in terms of like anything, like whether it's like music or other ventures and so forth. And do you have any like final words you'd like to say for any creative or any person out there pursuing their dreams?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. So first and foremost, I got a great body of work that I'm really excited to have the world listen to and hear, and I feel like it'd be a great introduction for anybody that hasn't heard my music yet to hear the new stuff that I have coming out for the first time and know that this is a great representation of who I am and what I can do. So that's really what I have planned for the year in terms of releasing that music. And for any creative, any person that's trying to do anything in life, I would say don't worry too much about how you're going to do it or when you're going to do it. Don't spend too much time on that. Just get to doing it, and the rest will figure itself out, or you'll figure the rest out yourself. But get to doing it. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for next year or when you have a better plan. Just get to doing it, and you'll figure the rest out.
No, most definitely. Likewise, man. Mobi Mawla, thank you for coming by to TLOY for the very first time to share more on your story, to share more on your journey, like within like Saudi Arabia, with Toronto, within Bradenton and all that, with being with Unity, performing at like all these events and Unity Fest too, to now with like your current music, with Freedom, with myself, with Southwest, and with all the other stuff that's gonna come in as well too. It's amazing to see, and like just like tapping into research more about you, like it's amazing to see like from the start until now. And it's very interesting to have you on like for the platform, for a fresh new interview that people might have not seen for like a very long time, like since then. Like I think like last time it was like maybe like 2013, 2014, since you sort of like did like an in-person like video interview. But glad to even have you on the platform to share more. So
No, I appreciate it, and thank you so much for having me on here, bro. I appreciate it a lot, and look forward to again to share my music with everybody that's listening.
Likewise, man. I wish nothing but the best, and until next time, man.
Absolutely, brother.